So hold on. Hold on. So normally, right? Normally we are always in this. Oh, I think this isn't this. Okay, hold on. I'm still entering the wrong one. So normally we're always inside this tutorials folder, right? Normally you see the inside that tutorials. So if I click on it, so these are all the libraries we created when we were discussing about DATs and how to create DATs programs, right? So today I told you in the last class that we are going to enter into Flutter officially today. So what I want us to do now, because all our programs were inside our DAT tutorials folder, but I don't want, now that we are starting Flutter, I don't want us to put our Flutter code inside this DAT tutorials folder. So I want us to create another folder inside this development folder. You know, we were inside the development folder, and it was inside the development folder that we kept our DAT tutorials folder, right? So now I want you to, if you're inside your DAT tutorials folder now, go to your terminal and just type cd space and 2 dots. It will take you back to the development folder. Do that right now. If you've done that, let me know, please. Hello?
I'm inside development folder.
All right. So just like we did for that, we want to create another folder for Flutter too. So now the way we did it for that the other time was we did mkdir to create a new directory, make directory, and then we'll name it Flutter, then dash tutorials, and you enter. You create this new folder for you, and then we can cd inside the Flutter tutorials.
Hello?
If you've done, hello? Is there any problem?
Okay, so you've already created a folder for Flutter before.
No. Inside the development folder, we already have all this Flutter and all that. We also created, hold on, let me go back first. So this is my, if you can see my screen. Okay.
Yeah, I can see it.
Let me show you. This is everything I have in my development folder. I have the Android SDK. I have the, you know, we created these DAT tutorials. This is where we keep all our DAT files when we created DAT tutorial. And then you have your Flutter windows and all that. Don't worry about this. This is the one I created now. This Flutter tutorial is the one I created now.
Okay.
So I said inside the development folder, I want to create a new folder called Flutter tutorials, like I did here. So that's why I typed this command, mkdir Flutter tutorials. So you can see the same way. Please don't give it a space. It is Flutter dash tutorials. Don't give it space. If you've done that, let me know. Selim,
yeah, done.
Selim.
Yes, I'm done.
All right. So if you've done that, want to cd inside the Flutter tutorials folder now. Tutorials. So from now on, you won't be, if you want to join the meeting from now on, we won't be using these DAT tutorials anymore. We'll be using the Flutter tutorials because this is what we are tackling now. So now, if you're inside the Flutter tutorials, let me know. If you see inside the Flutter tutorials, okay. How about Selim?
Yes, I'm there.
All right. Now that we have the Flutter tutorials, all our Flutter application that we are going to write in this bootcamp, we'll be keeping them inside our Flutter tutorials folder. So now to create a Flutter application, we have, they gave us this, they call it, what do they call it? Command line interface, CLI. They give us all these commands. So if you type Flutter, I think if you type Flutter, I think --L. Hold on. You can see, if you type Flutter --L, it will give you all this list of commands you can use with Flutter. So once you see Flutter creates, if you want to create a new Flutter project, you can see we have Flutter creates. So on your own free time, you can go through everything you can do with these commands. So we'll use this command, Flutter create, to create a new Flutter project. So that's what we are going to do now. Let me clear my screen. So they said we should type Flutter create, and then we have to give it a name, the name of our Flutter application. For now, you know, this is our first Flutter application. Let's just type, call it tests, right? So you type Flutter create tests, and then you click on, and then you hit on the enter key. It create your Flutter application for you, just like this. So you just give it some moments. You should set up your Flutter application and all that. It's just getting some dependencies and all. So if it's done, you see something like this. The application code is in test lib, blah, blah, all done. You see all done. And then now, okay, if I type ls to list my my folders inside the Flutter tutorials folder, you see that test is created for us. You know, we said Flutter create test. So it created this test application for us. So now let's cd inside that test now. Cd inside the test. And then if you're inside the test, you can now type code space dot. So it will open VS Code for you. Hold on. So if you type code space and dot, it should open VS Code, and then enter. It should open VS Code for you. So I'll share my VS Code now. I'll stop sharing my terminal. If there's any issue, let me know so I can go back. So can you see my VS Code? So if it's giving you something like something, do you trust, blah, blah, just click on yes, I trust. And then you should see all this folder. I know it will look like magic. Hold on, you should see all this folder, all these folders and these files. We will go through them briefly before we start anything. So if you are here where I'm at right now, you can let me know so I can continue.
I'm there already.
How about Selim?
I'm there now.
All right. So don't right now, hold on. Right now, don't bother yourself about this, that tool, idea, Android, all this folder. Don't bother with them right now. So it's when we are writing, it's when you want to touch on all this platform specific stuff that you touch on them. Right now, don't worry about Android, iOS. I will talk about this lib folder for, later. Don't worry about Linux, Mac OS. So all these are just set up for you to develop your Android app, iOS app, Linux app, Mac OS app, Windows app, web app, and to write tests. You know, you write when you get to some advanced DAT development or Flutter development, you start writing tests for your applications. We will not be doing that in this bootcamp because we don't have that time. So web application, Windows application, Git ignore. I've wanted to mention this earlier in this course. Maybe in your free time, I will look for some videos for you on YouTube. You need to learn about Git and GitHub. As a developer, you need to know about Git and GitHub. So Git and GitHub, they are for source control. Git is for source control to or version control to to store your application, right? To store your application, your program. So you store your program and you can go back to, even if you lose the file on your system, you still have them in your Git. And then that's why we have GitHub. It's like a cloud version of Git. So you know if your system is destroyed, your hard drive is destroyed, the application will get destroyed with the hard drive. So that's why we have GitHub. GitHub is in the cloud. So your application you write is going to be stored on GitHub. You can store them on GitHub. So even if you get a new system, you can just clone your repository again. You can just get your repository again and then start working on it. So I'll try to get some videos for you on GitHub, Git and GitHub. So this Git is not file, it's just to basically ignore some files if we are trying to push our code to GitHub. So we don't have to push all these files that is not needed. So you don't have to worry about metadata packages. These are all managed for you by Flutter, the SDK itself. Analysis option. This is for linting. Linting in the sense that different people write their own application in different ways. For linting, because if you are working on an application with other developers, you know the rules to follow. So you'll not be having different coding styles and patterns. So that's why we have linting. You don't have to worry about popspec.lock. Then we have this popspec.yaml. So if you have a dependency, this is where you have to add your dependency. If you want your application to depend on something, dependency says that if you have a package that someone else has created, we'll be talking about dependencies later when we talk about state management. We are talking about provider. So if you want to depend on someone else's code from outside, this is where you keep your dependencies. All these are comments. These ones are comments. This hash, anyone with the hash are comments. For all these ones that don't have the hash. So you can see the name of our app is test. Description, we can change this if we want. Publish none. Environment, this is the version of my Flutter SDK. You can see dependency. We are depending on Flutter. You can see Flutter SDK. Okay. Cupertino, we will talk about Cupertino later. Dev dependencies. Dependencies are the dependencies that you depend on during development on your application. So whenever you push your application to deployment, when you deploy your application, you won't all these dev dependencies won't matter anymore. Only these normal dependencies will matter. So we have Flutter lints, Flutter use material design through, and all that. And then this README. README is just for your Git when you are pushing your application to GitHub or something. It's just to tell people about your application. You can see it's just the normal boilerplate that they give us. Test a new Flutter application. So if you want to tell people about your application, you use this markdown. MD stands for markdown. Tell people with readme.md. Don't worry about this one. So for now, during this bootcamp, we'll only be touching on this lib folder and the popspec.yaml in this bootcamp. The lib folder and the popspec.yaml. Yeah. So if you can remember, I told you every file you create in Flutter is a library. So that's what this lib stands for. It stands for library. So every code we want to write now, we'll be writing them in our lib folder. So now we have this main.dat. So this is like a skeleton app that Flutter gives us, right? If we create any Flutter application from scratch, they give us like this test our application. So we are going to run this now. Now to run our application, we can use two different methods. You can use your physical mobile device, your normal mobile device, and you can use something we call emulator. I'll show you what an emulator is now. Let me share it. I don't think I can share two things. Can you see it? I think you can see it. Hello?
No, we can't see it.
All right, let me just share the emulator right now so you can see. Hold on. This thing is hanging. Hold on. I'm running a lot of stuff in my laptop. It's hanging right now. Let's give it a moment. Zoom is hanging already. Okay, let me. Let me share my the emulator for you now. Hopefully it doesn't crash again. So can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, this is an emulator. So you can download an emulator from Android Studio. You know, we downloaded we installed Android Studio the other time. And if you want to download emulators, you can download different emulators. This is, I think, Nexus something. Nexus. Okay, I'll share you my terminal so you see how many emulators I've already installed. So I think each one is over 1 gig. So that was why I didn't want you to download it the other time, because I don't want you to waste data. So you can use emulator of physical device. So for you now to test this, our Flutter application that we've just created, that Flutter gave us. Now, I want you to use your physical device. So now, if you have a USB, connect your computer to your phone through USB. Or before you do that, if you are with your phone right now, are you with your phone right now?
Yes. I'm
Right.
joining my phone.
So I want you
Yes,
to
yes.
go to your settings. To your settings.
Okay, I'm there.
Hold on. Please give me a minute. Let me pause this recording.
Sorry, if you want to run the app, should it be run without debugging, or how do we run?
Hold on, don't run yet. Don't run yet. Don't run.
Okay.
I told you, I asked if you have your physical device, your phone, your Android phone with you right now. Don't run yet.
Okay.
So if you are in your settings right now, I want you to scroll down. Right? Scroll down. If you see about phone, click on your about phone. If you see something like build number, your build number, let me know. Hello?
Build number or model number?
It might differ. I think yours might be model number. For me, because I'm using Samsung, if I go to about phone, I still have to go to software information, and then I will see my build number. So with your own mobile numbers, what did you call it? Yes, Selim.
Yes, I've already seen it here.
All right.
Build number.
So I want you to tap on that build number 7 times, as fast as possible. 7 times. You should turn on developer mode.
Okay. Developer mode is turned on.
Mr. Lekon, how about you? Hello, Mr. Lekon.
Done.
Okay, it's done. All right. I think someone else
Yes.
joined us. Hold on.
Yes.
Who? Let me check.
Trail.
All right. Good evening, Miss Treasure. I think she can hear us. All right. If you've done that, now I want you to go to that, go back. You see, if you go back to your normal settings, you see developer options at the last, it should be the last on the list. If you see developer options, I want you to turn it on. Okay, it should be on already, I think. And if
Yes,
you've done
it's
that, I want you to scroll just a little bit. You see USB debugging, and I want you to turn it on.
I've done that.
All right. How about Mr. Olorontobi? I mean, Mr. Olalikon.
I've done that before now.
All right. USB debugging, right? You've turned it on.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So now you can just connect your phone to your system through your USB, your USB cable. you've done that, let me know. Let me share my entire
Done.
screen. So I hope you can see my entire screen, right?
Yes.
All right. So, hold on. All right. You can see my mouse cursor here
Yes.
on my VS Code. Here you see on the bottom tabs, you see all these tabs, all these clickable tabs. You see devices. Mine is 2 devices connected, but mine is Nexus C something something. Yours should bring something out. You should not say no
Yeah,
device.
now the device is connected.
Click on it first. I want to see something. Because I want to know if it's your mobile device. Because if it's your mobile device,
Infinix
it should have an icon.
650 DPI.
So it should have this phone icon. So just click on it. So you should be sure. You should have this phone icon next to it. Selim, are you there?
I'm coming. Just give me a minute.
All right, all right.
Think I need to-
Selim, let us know when you are done.
Okay.
Selim Alpha. So for while we are waiting for Selim, for Mr. Lalikon, what I want you to do, the time will soon be over because just join again if it's done. So what I want you to do now is go to this run and then choose run without debugging. Now, it will take a little while because it's just the first time. The first time you are building your application on a mobile device, it's going to take a little while.
Okay.
So
I've been
for
able to
this,
select it.
all right. So make sure that it has this phone icon next to it. So you should be sure it's your phone.
Okay, okay.
So that code, you know, is what code is it giving us as your phone? Should have some gibberish, right? Yeah. Selim,
Why is bringing out
What do you
error?
say? I can hear you.
sorry, Mr. Lekon, what error is it giving you?
We should run it now, Abi.
The error is much.
Share your screen. Let me see.
Exception in
Are we
trend
run it
name.
now?
Selim, hold on. Mr. Lalikon, share your screen, please.
So I couldn't connect my system. I was connected with my phone.
Ah, wow. You can, good. Hold on. Just read a little bit on the error.
Okay, exception in trend main java.net.unknown host exception
Try to run
service.gradu.org.
it again.
Okay.
Run without debugging. Yeah, Selim,
Should I leave it in terminal or debug console?
No, do it. You should on your VS Code, you see run on this top tab, and then click on run without debugging.
Yes, as in default, I mean, where the error will come out from. We know we have problems, we have output, we have debug console and terminal. Like, which one should I put it?
Where is the error coming from? Is it from debug console?
Yes.
Yes, that's why I said run it again.
Okay.
Run with.
I've done that.
All right, mine is. If you can see my screen, my application.
We can't see your screen.
Hold on. So I'm sorry. Before I do that, Selim, what's the issue?
Sorry, give me a few minutes. I want to attend something.
Selim.
No issue yet. It's still launching like libmain dot that. No
All
issue
right,
yet.
all right. Let me just share my screen.
Because I'm only
We are
so much
having the same thing.
laptop, so my laptop could be.
Hold on. So you can see my screen. So it's the same thing now. It should tell you launching libmain something on something, all right?
Yes, this
All right.
is exactly what
So
it's saying.
if you can see, my own emulator is Nexus something Android emulator. So this is it here. Your own, that code that you are seeing as your own, that code name that you are seeing for your own, that's like the code name for your phone. Whenever you want to run any Flutter application, if you connect your phone to your system through USB and you want to run your Flutter application, you'll be seeing that code. So it might differ if you change your phone. If you connect with another phone, the code will change. So that's the code for your phone right now. If you want to run a Flutter application using your phone and your USB. You get.
Yes, I understand.
All right. Let's just wait. You can wait for this thing to run. Because it's the first time we are running this application that we've created. So it's going to take a little while. So any subsequent running of the application to get it to take less time than the initial one. Let's just wait. So while we are waiting, I think let's do something else. Mr. Lekman, are you there?
Yes, I'm with you.
Can we continue?
Yes, we can.
Hold on. So
It has already launched an app on
okay,
my
it has
phone.
launched, John. Because yours is on your phone. And mine, I'm running a lot of stuff and I'm running the emulator. That's why it's taking a lot of time.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
And so many things running on my RAM. So Selim, that's the first Flutter application that you've run, Abby. So if you minimize right now, if you minimize and go to your list of applications, you should see that Flutter application there, named test. It's already installed on your phone.
Yes, I've seen it.
All right. It has the Flutter logo, right?
Yes, it does.
All right. Hold on. I think let's just give my own a little bit of time to run. Or I can just continue. All right, Mr. Liko, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. But sorry, I want
Yes,
to
I'm
take
here.
it down.
The session will end soon. So you can join, please, as soon as possible. So I don't want to waste time. So the first thing I want to mention is everything in Flutter is a widget. Just put that at the back of your mind. Everything in Flutter is a widget. A widget in the sense that a widget is like a building block for your UI, for your application UI. So everything in Flutter is a widget. The Flutter engineers, they've already given us some widgets that we can use to build our own widget. Think of a widget like a building block, like a Lego now, if you know a Lego, like a building block to create some other things. So you use those widgets to create some other things. And you can modify, you can morph a widget to your own taste, to what you want it to do. So a widget can be stateless, can be of two states. A widget can be stateless. You can see here, stateless widgets, and it can be stateful. So it can only be of these two states. So most of the times, you know what the difference is soon enough. But just know we have a widget can be of these two states, can be stateless and can be stateful. And everything in Flutter is made up of widgets. So Mr. Liko, are you there?
Yes, I'm with you.
All right. So you were there in the last class when we were talking about inheritance, all those OOP features. Selim, I hope you watched those that video. Selim, I hope you watched that video because this is where it will come in handy. This is where the OOP intro will come in handy. So, like I mentioned in the last class, I think for Mr. Likon, this should look familiar. From here, this block should look familiar, right, Mr. Likon? We have my app extends stateless widgets. So stateless widgets is a widget given to us by the Flutter developers themselves. So our own app, we want it to extend, want it to inherit from the stateless widget. If we control and click, that's why control can see and click on this stateless widget to see. If you take it to the implementation of stateless widget, you can see stateless widget itself extends widgets. So we can keep drilling down. So this is what the Flutter developers have given us. We control and click again. So that's even one of the reasons that Flutter is favorable among developers. You can see the source code, you can see everything. So you can keep drilling down the rabbit hole. So my app now, we are saying is extending stateless widgets. So everything in Flutter is made up of widgets. I'm just waiting for this one to run. Still taking time. But you can see, I said imports. I talked about imports 2 classes ago. I said import, you can use imports to import some other library, right? To import some other library into your own library. So you can use the functions and all properties from that library. So if we imported this package Flutter material, importing material.dat. So you can use the functions in material.dat right in this our own library. You can see. So in mobile development right now, in the mobile world, we have, what I wanted to say was in Flutter, right? Or in mobile development, we have 2 different UI, like 2 different, how do I put it? 2 different ways you can create your UI. So in for iOS, right? iOS, we have Cupertino. iOS uses the Cupertino design. They have 2 different designs. iOS uses Cupertino design, and for Android uses material design. Let me just show you a difference. Let's Google it together. So let's Google for Cupertino. Material design. Cupertino is for Apple, for iOS, and the material design is Android design pattern. So that is, if you've used an iOS, if you used an Apple mobile phone before, you see the difference from when you are using an Android device. The way the design is different. So the design for iOS is Cupertino. If you have time, you can go through this websites on your own free time. You can see. Let's go to Cupertino. Still loading. So this is material design. One is still loading. So this one is for, you can see, it's for Apple. Apple design uses Cupertino. This is the way Apple designed their own. I just wanted to show you some pictures and some differences. But for now, just know that material design is the design pattern that Android uses, that Google uses for Android, and Cupertino is the design pattern that Apple uses for their iOS devices. But this doesn't matter in some sense, because sometimes because Flutter gives you the flexibility to build your own design, the way you want your own application to look. So you can, by default, your Flutter application uses this material design. So that's why I'm importing material with that. You can even create, because I told you everything is a widget. It's just left to you how you want to morph, how you want to mold your widgets to look. You can even mold the material widget to look like a Cupertino widget. It depends on you, the developer. So, but by default, our Flutter application uses material design. You can see material. And also you can see I can import, instead of Flutter, instead of importing material.dat, I can go ahead to import. Hold on. What's Cupertino? You can see I can go ahead to import Cupertino.dat. So here you see we are using this material app. Material app we're using here is from the material. I don't know why this things. I think I have to restart my VS Code. All right, I think it's working now. So you can see we have material.dat, and we can also import Cupertino.dat. So, but by default, Flutter application uses this material. Let me get rid of the Cupertino. So now I told you when we started learning that the entry point, your main function is the entry point of your data application. Anything you want to run has to run inside your main.dat. So that's why I can see this run app is run inside your main.dat. If you had put it outside, it's not going to run. It's just going to keep floating out. So this run app is given to us by this material.dat. So we can call this run app function. If you can remember, that's why we have import. You can import a library, so we can use the functions inside the library. So this run app is given to us from the material.dat. So we are running my app. So we are run app expects a widget. You can see if we move around it, we run app expects a widget. So we are running my app. So we can supply my app to it, because you can see my app extends a stateless widget. And if you move around stateless widget too, it extends a widget. So that's why we can use run app here. So we are supplying my app to run app. I'm still waiting for this thing to load. Okay, let's just continue. So, all right. Let us get rid of all these comments. Let's get rid of them. To do that, you can just control, I think, and control and forward slash. Hold on. Okay, control H. If you hit control H, it should bring this bar for you. Find and replace. Let me get rid of it. Find and replace. Then you can just hit the forward slash, dots, and then the asterisk. 2 forward slashes, dots, and asterisks. And then click on this one that says use regular expression. You can see regular expression. Now don't put anything to replace, because we want to replace it with nothing. And then in this second one that says replace all, click on that second one. So if you do that, automatically all those comments will have disappeared. Now to get rid of all this space, I think when we were setting up our VS Code, I think I on them format on save for you. But for me, if I click on Ctrl S to save, it should format it. Try to do that. If you can't do that, let me know so I can on that for you. Format on save. So if you save your Flutter application, you should format your code for you.
Yeah, you did that.
Yeah?
You did that.
Okay. So now we've got rid of all those comments. All right. I think I have to use my physical device. This is taking too long. It's taking too long. So hold on. Please hold on. I think it's almost done. Build. So yeah, I said my app extends. For Celine, please, you have to watch that OOP video so you can get this. Please, that OOP video.
Sure, definitely.
Because if you don't watch it, you are not going to get what I'm going to
Thank you.
today. Just try. I hope I'm.
Okay.
Let me run this again. Mr. Lekon, are you there? Hello, I don't think he's there. Mr. Lekon, let's just continue, I think. So, said my app extends stateless widgets. And when I talked about OOP, inheritance, in the last class, I said if you have a class that is extending something, then you can use the fields, the properties, and the methods of that class. So my app is extending stateless widget. That means we can use the fields and properties and the methods of the stateless widgets. So from the constructor here, we are supplying the key. Don't worry about this key right now. We're supplying the key. It's null. You can see it's nullable. So don't worry about that. Now it has a build method. The stateless widget itself has a build method. If Mr. Lekon was here, you would understand this part. This is polymorphism. So we want to override the build method that the stateless widget has. If you control and click on stateless widget again, you see it has a build method. So right here, just this right here has two pillars, because we have 4 pillars of object-oriented programming. We have polymorphism, we have inheritance, we have abstraction, and we have encapsulation. So just this from here to here, we've tackled two pillars of OOP. This is inheritance, because we are inheriting the properties and methods of a stateless widget here. We are extending it, we are inheriting. So this is inheritance, and this is polymorphism. We are morphing, because this stateless widget is the one that owns this build method. Stateless widget has this build method, and then we are overriding. That means we want to give our own implementation of the build method. So I control and clicked on stateless widgets, so you can see, where is it? You can see abstract class, stateless widget extents, and I talked about abstract classes in the last class. So if we scroll down, you can see we have this build method here. So you can see we have this build method here. So in our own application, we are morphing, we are overriding it to give our own implementation of a build method. So a build method has this build context. This context is one of the most important things in Flutter. This context right here, one of the most important things. For right now, just know that context holds information about your widget. Is holding information like where your widget is in the widget tree. So wherever your widget is in the widget tree, the context knows about it. So this is one of the most important concepts to grab in Flutter, this context. So I'm still waiting for this one. I'll use my physical device now. I think so. So if you have your own opened, you should have something that says you have clicked this button, this amount of time, and if you click that button, that floating action button, it should keep increasing. Please verify that, Sally.
Yes, I do.
So if you keep clicking, just keep implementing. So I said,
Yes,
Flutter, everything is a widget, and you use widgets to build other widgets. You use the widget to build your entire UI. So we are using material app. We are importing it from material.dat, right? We're using material app. Basically, this is where we are going to lay out our Flutter application. We have to use either material app or Cupertino. Like I mentioned, we have either material or Cupertino. So if we had used Cupertino here, we would have imported Cupertino instead. So you get. So we are returning in the build method, we are returning a material app. Now, material app has a constructor. Hold on. In the material app's constructor is expecting a title. I really hope you watch that OOP video so you get what I'm talking about here. The material app has a constructor, has different constructors. If I hover around it, you can see so many constructors you can use in the material app. So many. From here, from this closing curly brace to this opening. can see the key, global navigator. We have home. I'm going to talk about this home. You can see the home here. This is it here, right here. Let me move around it again. I don't know why this thing keeps aborting. Can't find service package. Hold on. I think I have to. Let me just use my real device. So you can just follow.
Okay.
Or I think I have another idea. Let me use something else. Let me use my desktop. So this is one of the things about Flutter. You see, this application we just created now, because I've turned that on my system, on my Flutter. I can run it on Windows. Like I can create a window application for it too. So it will run like a normal window application. So now I'm going to use a normal window, a normal desktop. So it's just kind of mimic our mobile device. Hold on.
Okay, that's nice.
You can see I have Windows, Chrome, Edge, and all these emulators. You just use Windows. Let me fix this one. So let's just continue. So I said this material app in the constructor, right, is expecting title, but let me override it again. Let me see where it's title. You can see it's expecting title, and the title has a default string of nothing, right? The default string. But here we are supplying the title code. He's asking. So we are supplying Flutter demo. So if you are not going to see this, the title of the app of our material app is Flutter demo. You can set your theme here, the theme of your application, how you want your application to look, how you want some text to look. Some text to look, how you want your basically your colors. This is where you set your colors, your text and everything. So this is normal theme. That's it. The theme property in the constructor expects the theme data. You can see it's expecting the theme data. So we are supplying theme data, primary swatch colors. You can even, let's mess up with this. You can change it to colors of red if you want. And that's the beauty of Flutter. If you just save, it's going to auto reload. We call it auto reload. It's going to auto reload, and you are going to see the changes instantly. This is why Flutter. This is one of the main selling points of Flutter when it came out. Because normally, if you are creating a mobile application, other things like Swift or Kotlin or Java, to even see all these small changes, maybe you change from colors the blue to colors the red. If you to see all these changes, it's going to take a while. I think if you save, you have to wait for it to build and to do all that before you can see the changes. But I think everybody's trying to.
Okay, but after I change it now, I should want it to Abby.
If you want what?
I've changed the color to. I should want
Just
the
control
code
save.
after I've saved.
Yes, it's already running.
Okay,
right? It's already
control.
running. You know, if you see, you can see my cursor. If you can see something like this, it's already running. And it's already running. So you can just control S to save. You are going to see the changes. I think but sometimes it's not auto reload. You have to auto restart.
Yes.
So it changed, right?
Has not changed. Does not change yet.
Control S.
But I don't think mine is running.
So try running it again, because if it's not running, it's going to have. If you check your debug console, what is it saying? If it's not running, it will give you something like exit. Maybe it has stopped running. This debug console.
I think it has stopped running.
You can just run again from here, run without debugging. So can you run it again?
Yes, I'm running it again. What's the shortcut to bring out the debug console again, please?
No, in your terminal, you can see if you click anywhere on your VS Code, you can control and tilde. You know, I explained what the tilde key is. You have the escape key on top of it. You have the number one key. Yeah, you can just control and click to bring out your terminal. So you see all these tabs: problems, outputs, debug console, terminal. Just click on the debug console.
Yes, I've done that.
Right.
It's out already, but it's still running.
All right.
It's launching. It's going to.
It's not supposed to take as much time as it did earlier. It's going to take time.
Okay, I don't think it is. It's about booting now already.
So it's just the initial launching. Whenever you create a new Flutter application, the initial launch of that Flutter application is going
I've seen it has changed.
So you can even change the color again to anything.
That's changed already.
It will change. We call it auto reload. It's going to auto reload the application. So you have this. Now, I said the material app, in the constructor of the material app, is expecting a title, expecting a theme, but I think all this, you can see, all these are nullable. So you can just do away with them. That means you might decide not to supply. You can see, you might decide to comment this out. So we don't want to supply. Don't worry about this blue squiggly line. It's my linting error. So you can decide not to supply your theme. Doesn't matter because the theme property of the constructor is nullable. So if it's nullable, you don't have to supply it. Or if you want, you can supply it null. You can see here, I can just say null. So it doesn't matter. Okay, it has started running now.
Okay.
All right, you can see this is my Flutter application on Windows. This is a normal window application. You can see this is why Flutter is gaining traction. So let me just mimic a mobile application. Let me just, I think here is enough. All right. You can see it says Flutter demo application, Flutter demo homepage. Title. So we said the constructor of the material app is expecting title, which is nullable, theme, which is nullable, home. Now this home, every time you create a material app, so I have to mention, you might, I think 99% of the time, you will only have one material app in your whole entire application. One material app, because from here you can start building your other widgets. So the material app is asking for home. You can see it's asking for home, the home page. So we are supplying a new widget, my home page. You can see this is my home page here. My home page is a stateful widget. You know, I said that we have stateless and stateful widgets. These are the only two states your widgets can possess. So just know that the main difference between stateless and stateful widget is that is even intuitive enough. If you can just reason it about it. Stateless widget doesn't have a state. It's just what you see is what you get. It doesn't change. Just one state. Stateful, meaning that if you know that your widget is going to change, like, let me see. Here, you know this widget, this 0 is a text widget. We are going to get there. Hold on. It says you have pushed this button this many times. Now, if I push this button, if I don't have a stateful widget, if I'm using a stateless widget, this number is not going to change. The code is going to run. If we print it out, it's going to give us what the output is, either 1 or 2 or 3 and so on. But it's not going to reflect on our UI. So we are using stateful widgets to show that something is changing. Our state is changing. So state in Flutter or most of technologies just means data. Just know that state means data. So these are our states. It's changing because we are using stateful widgets. So if you had used stateless widget here, your code will run fine, but it's not going to reflect. The changes will not reflect on your UI. So that's just the basic differences between stateless and stateful widgets. So that's why here, home is expecting a widget. You can see home is expecting a nullable widget. So we can decide not to supply home if we like. Let's even try that. We try not to supply home and we save. And so you just have a blank screen. Let me pin this to mine. So just have a blank screen. So if you decide not to supply home, let's supply home again and controls. We have our application there. So I said home is extending a stateful widget. This is just the boilerplate for stateful widget. Create a stateful widget. We are overriding the create state method, and we are supplying this one. Just note from here to here is just the basic boilerplates for creating stateful widget. Every time you create a stateful widget, this is just going to by default, because we installed some extensions. By default, we are going to have all this. Don't bother yourself about from here to here. So now, our my home page is expecting a string. We have a final. The title is a property of my home page. It's expecting the title. You can see it's required. It's required here. So that's why we have to supply the title here. You can see. We have to supply the title here. You can change this to. My demo. If you see, you can see it's changing here in my app bar. So this title that we are supplying from here, this title we are supplying from here, this is where we are using it. You can see widget.title. So I don't want to go too deep into stateless widget for now. For now, I don't want to go too deep into stateless widget. I just want to talk about I don't want to go too deep into stateful widget. For now, I want to talk about stateless widgets. So let me just do a run through of all this. We are keeping track of a counter. Now remember, I said if you have an underscore before an identifier, that is before a variable name, meaning that variable is private to the library. So this is a library, the whole file, this file is a library. So if we have another library, depending on this library, we won't be able to reference counter. For instance, let's create another library. Make sure you click on the lib folder. Let's name it home underscore page dot dat and hit enter. Now what I want you to do now is go back to your main. Now from this my home page extends stateful widget down, cut it, Ctrl X, and then paste it in that home page. You have a lot of error, but don't worry, we'll tackle them one after the other. So now we don't have access to stateful widget here because there is no stateful widget. You can read the error. Classes can only extend other classes because we have not specified a stateful widget class. But remember, we want the stateful widget from the material.dat. So we can go through the long method of typing import, or we can use the extension we installed. Just control and dots. Make sure your mouse, your cursor is on anywhere on the stateful widget text. Control and dots should bring out this IntelliSense, and click on the one that says material.dat. So if you do that, all the errors should automatically go away. Now in your main.dat, we have another issue because the home page is no more here. You can see the name of my home page is in the class because home page is no more here. So we have to import home page. So this is the home page library. We have to import it in this file. So we can just do the same, control and dots. Now to see import library home page, you can click one of the two. The first one is what we call relative path. The second one is an absolute path. Relative path, like from where the lib folder is starting from. An absolute path from the beginning of from the start of your application. So it's starting from, you can see, where is it? It's starting from package test, see from package, because this is a package. So I've not mentioned it before. If this application we created is called a package. And then inside the package, you can have multiple libraries. Hold on. You can have multiple libraries. So the relative part, let me try it again. So the relative part is starting from package, then test, then slash homepage. That's the absolute part. Then the relative part is starting from lib, because it's not inside any folder. Inside the lib, right? So we can just choose anyone we want. For me, I'll just click on the relative part. And the error should go away. You can save and to run our application again. Let me change. I want to change this color. Primary swatch. All right. So you can see, I said if you use another score before an identifier, it makes it private, right? It's private to this library. Let's create another variable. Let's just say int. Right now, let's call it counter2, but it should be without the underscore. Let's see 02. Now here, I think we can see dots. Hold on. So we can reference the counter from here. I'm trying to think of an example to use. You can see var home is equals to my home page. Okay. Don't worry about this const. We'll tackle it later. So if you can remember, I said if we import a library into another library, you see, I'm creating an home. I'm creating a variable called home, and I'm instantiating that home page class here. So now I can just reference home dot title, no issue, right? And because this one is inside the build, inside this stateful widget, let me take it out. Let me take it to the listing. Please hold on. I want to point something out. So I have int counter, the one without the underscore, and the one with the underscore. So here I can reference home.title, I can reference home.counter. You can see, I can only reference, let me try it again. If I say home dot, you can see I only have access to counter, title, and key. If you want to know the data that we have access to, the one with this cube, like this cube icon. Other ones, don't worry about them. You can see this one is another color, but this one with this bluish cube. So we have access to counter, title, and key. So you can see there is no underscore counter here. If you keep scrolling, there is no underscore counter. We don't even have access. Even if we try, let's even try counter. You can see we don't have access to it because it is private. So underscore, if you put underscore before a variable, is making that variable private to that library. Now this one is just for demo purposes, just to go back to what I've mentioned in the last class, because I tackled this in the last class. So if you have a class and you want to make a variable private, just put an underscore. So that means that variable can only be referenced in that library. So if you have another library referencing that library, you don't have access to that variable. So this int counter is only usable in this library. Even if we create another class, even if we say class, let's just create class demo. Can reference counter, no problem. That's it. If you create a new what do you call it? A new home, my home page. Here's the title. A new instance of my home page. Now I can see, I can reference home dots. Hello, are you still there?
Yes, yes, I'm seeing it.
I was scared. I thought I lost you guys. If you create another class, can still reference home dot the underscore. I think this is asking for constructors. I don't want to go through all the stress. Hold on, let me just create a constructor. Let's have it for it maybe. Hold on. I see home dot title. I will see the counter here. I don't think you can create to void me. But the point is, you can reference the private variable in this library. But if you're outside the library, you cannot reference that private variable. You only have reference to, you can only reference variables without the underscore outside the library. Just like this title. My VS Code has crashed. Please hold on. I'm running a lot of stuff. Can't even click on anything. All right. So we can see we can use the title here. Because it doesn't have an underscore. Well, if we use an underscore, you don't have access to the you don't have access to the property. You only have access to properties that doesn't have an underscore. So we set the counter to start from 0, right? That's why we have 0 here. Now we have a method. What this method does is only to increment, you can see, is only to increment this counter by 1. So remember, we can even say, when I talked about variable declaration and assignment operators, you can say +1. You can even go on to say +2. If okay, you can try this, turn this to plus equals to. Let me get rid of this. If you turn this to plus equals to and you tap the icon, the increment icon, you can see instead of incrementing by 1, is incrementing by 2. That's 2, 4, 6, 8. So that's just what this method is for. It's just to increment our counter variable, this variable, by 1. That's just what this is doing. And then this set state, okay, let me get rid of the set state. Set state is to notify our Flutter SDK, to notify the Flutter that this widget needs rebuilding. Okay, you get. So we use test state whenever we want to notify Flutter that something in our application has changed, that a state in our application has changed. So this is kind of like a good place to put our counter. So set state requires a function, takes in a function. You can see this is a function, call it an anonymous function. This function here. If you like, you can cut the function out. You can cut the function out and put it somewhere else. But this is an anonymous function from this block to this block. So set state takes in a function, and it's inside the function that we are going to put in that code that we need, that code that is going to update our UI. So you can see whenever we increment counter, so this is kind of one of the things that we can put in our set state function. We want our application to know that counter has incremented. You can see we want it to know that counter has incremented. So that's why we are putting counter inside the set state. So we are calling the set state in the increment counter function. So in the build method, we are returning a scaffold. Now, this scaffold right here is also a widget, right? If you know what a scaffold is, let's say a structure where you can add other widgets. So this scaffold here is used to lay out other widgets. So just know in our widget tree, we will need one material app. Then you can have several scaffolds depending on the pages you have. So for this page, this home page, we have is returning a scaffold. Remember, the build method is supposed to return a widget. So you can see the return type of the build method is of type widget. So we are returning the scaffold, and the scaffold has several constructors. Let's see. It has several properties in the constructor. You see, it has a key, it has an app bar, it has a body, floating action button, and all that. These are the several things you can put in your scaffold. So we have our app bar. So this is the app bar. Is expecting, let me move around it. Is expecting a preferred size widget. This app bar here is also of type preferred size widgets. Let's control click. You can see. You can see app bar extends state widgets, implement preferred size widgets. So that's why we can use this app bar class. Is also a widget. Remember I said everything in Flutter is a widget. So this app bar is expecting a widget, and we supply the app bar. You can see this app bar too. We can supply leading, title, and all this. So we are only giving title. And title too expects a widget. So it's inside the title, we have a text widget. You can give it a text widget. And then it says we are supplying it the widget.title. That is the title that we passed here. So we are using widget.title because it's not inside this class. It's inside the widget class. That's how we're using widget.title. If the title was here inside this class, we'll have used ordinary widget without the widget.title. We'll have used ordinary title. So we are using widget.title. This is the title we passed when we are instantiating a new object from the my home page. You can see my demo. So if we change this from my demo to just demo, you can see it's changing. That's because here is expecting a title, and we are supplying it here in the text widget. You can see from here we are given the comma. So scaffold expects an app bar. So if we like, we might get rid of the app bar. If we get rid of the app bar, you will not see the app bar anymore. And then it's expecting a body. So most of our code inside the scaffold, we write it in the body. So you know this is like normal scaffold. So in the scaffold we have app bar, and in the app bar we have the text widget. You can see this is the scaffold, everything you are seeing on the screen, and we are laying out our app bar, and then in the app bar we are supplying the text widget. That's why we're having demo here. And then in the body of our scaffold we have a widget called center. Center is just a widget to center our other widgets. If we get rid of this center, hold on. Let me remove this widget. If we get rid of the center, you can see it's just pushing it somewhere. It's just laying it out in a disorganized fashion. So we are using center to center our widgets. It's nicely centered. So then in the center expects a child. You see, a nullable child. That means if we like, we might give it the child, and if we don't like, we might not. Expecting a key, you don't have to worry about this. All you have to worry about is this child. You see this child a lot. So expecting a child, and then the child we are giving the column. Don't worry, in the next class we'll tackle this one after the other. It's just to give you a brief explanation on this default Flutter application when you create a Flutter application. In the next class we'll tackle layouts and then widgets one after the other. It's just like a brief explanation. So the center expects a child, and then the child we are supplying a column. The column is a widget. Let me hold on. I want to show you something. What do I call it? That's this loaded. No, you don't have to create this. If you create this file, you are not going to get this thing. I installed an extension for it. So I just want to show you something. Hold on. So let's say this is your column. Sorry, this is an object. Let's just say this is a widget, right? If you are talking about column, is to stack objects or widgets like on top of each other on the y-axis. Hold on, let me. So let's see. This is another one. It's another one. It's another one. So right now, this is a column, right? We are stacking 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 widgets. So this is a column. This is the main axis of a column from top to bottom. Hold on. Let me draw something here. So from top to bottom. I don't know why it's from top to bottom, we have your column. This is the main axis, top to bottom, main axis of your column. We are stacking widgets on top of each other. We have another layout called row. We have a column, we have a row. Now, if you can imagine, row is almost the same thing. Only that row is laid out this way on the x-axis. You can see. So this is the main axis of a row, right? And this is the cross axis of a row. From top to bottom is the cross axis of a row, but from left to right, this is the main axis of a row. For a column, this is from top to bottom is the main axis of a column. And from left to right is the cross axis of a column. Let me come back. For a column, top to bottom is the main axis. Left to right is the cross axis. But for row, I just say this is row. For row, left to right is the main axis. Top to bottom is the cross axis. Okay, let's go back. So the center is expecting a column, is expecting a child, right? And the child is expecting a widget. We can supply any widget. So we decided to give it a column, right? And then column, as you can see, we are setting the main axis as alignment to the center. So remember, column, the main axis is top to bottom, right? And we are setting the main axis to be center. If we get rid of this, if we comment this out, it's going to do the default. The default main axis of a column is top. So its main axis alignment does top. You can see. Let me show you. Dots. I see. Center end is not even top, it starts. So start means from the top. If you see main axis alignment dot start, it's starting from the top. If we see dot end, you start from the bottom. You can see it's on the bottom. But if we see center, to be on the center. Let's go back. So because from top to bottom is the main axis, so we can use dot start. So you can see main axis alignment dot start. So to start from the top. We can use dot center to start from the center. And we can use dot end to start from the bottom. We also have stuff like main axis alignment dots space around, space between, and space evenly. So we have these three: space around, space between, and space evenly. Let me show you what they do. We have let's see, okay, let me create another box. looking for a way to make this. Okay, let's just imagine. Let's imagine that inside this big box, we have all these small boxes. Let's just say this big box is our phone, right? It's our mobile device. Now, if you say main axis alignment dot space between, so now it's going to calculate, do some normal mathematics to find out the height, like the normal height of that device. It's going to do some calculation to get that out. And then it's going to place them. Let's say this is inside the phone. It's going to, we are talking about evenly right now. Main axis alignment, the space evenly. It's going to space them out evenly on the main axis. You know, the main axis is top to bottom, right? You need to space them out evenly on the main axis. Now we say dot space between. Now it's going to bring them closer, but there will still be space, but it's still going to give them space outside. Don't forget, this is the mobile device, right? Let's just imagine that these boxes are inside. So it's going to give it a space here, 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 here. That's for space between. And then if it's it's still going to do the same thing. I'm sorry about that. Space between is going to do the same thing. Give them space and then put this one at the bottom. Space between is going to give everything space. Like from here, give it a space, put space between. This one here, put space between. This one here, there will be a space. Let's try that out. That's in theory. Let's practicalize that. Let's see that space. Let's see around. Remember, these two are stacked on top of each other. This widget and this widget. So this is the with text widgets. The two text widgets are inside. So we have space between. Space around, I mean, you can see there's a space on top, space in the middle, space at the bottom. Space evenly. We're going to space them out evenly. So this space here, the amount of space here is the same as the amount of space from here to here and from here to here. I think space between, right? We say space between, it's going to push this one up and this one bottom. So if we add another widget, it's still going to give them, do some calculation for us and then give them space. So I said we have a column. I just talked about the main axis alignment. We also have cross axis alignment. Now let me take this back to center. Right, now I mentioned from top to bottom is the main axis of a column, and then left to right is the cross axis. That's cross axis alignments. So from left to right is the cross axis. Let's see end. If we say end, we are expecting it to push these two widgets to the right, right? Let's see. You can see it's pushing them to the right. It's because there's a padding. We have a padding here. I think so. This is if you are running on your phone, you shouldn't have this padding. Because I think I'm using the this thing. I'm using the Windows, normal Windows and everything, but I was using the phone. You won't have this space. As you can imagine, it's pushing these two widgets to the extreme end of the right. Because this is the cross axis from left to right, right? If we see dot start, it's pushing the widget to the right and to the left hand. Or we didn't supply it, so it's going to be center. So now let's go to the children property. So column expects an alignment. So the alignment is optional if you want, and then expects children. The children is of type list of widgets. So it's taking a list of widgets. You can see from here to here is a list. Remember when I talked about list literals, this is how you declare lists. So this is a list from here to here. So it's expecting widgets. So now I'm supplying the first widget, which is this text. You have pushed the button this many times. So this is what you're saying here. You have pushed the button this many times. And then you supplied another widget. You can see Now we are using that counter. Remember, the counter we were keeping track of. It's starting from 0. I remember I said you can use string interpolation to evaluate something and turn it back to a string. So we want to evaluate what the counter is and turn it back to a string. That's why we're using $sign in counter here. And then we are giving it a style. Don't bother yourself about this theme dot of context. We can even give it our own style. Style takes a widget of text style. Let's give it our own style. Let's see. Text style. Let's give it a font size. Font size, let's say 30. It's going to be massive. Let's see, let's give it a color. Let's see, red. Sorry, colors. That's red. Now receive. And we can put const here. There's a constant constructor. Receive, you can see the widget, you can see it starts on to 8. Whereas 30 is still, I want it to be massive. Let's see, 60. This is massive now, it's big. Big now, can keep pushing. Now, I want us to have another, okay, let me continue. So I've talked about column. Column expects children. Children expect a list of widgets. So you can see the difference between child and children here. The child expects just one widget, one child, one widget. And then a children, most times if you are dealing with column, 100% of the time, column expects children, doesn't expect a child. It expects children because you want to stack, you want to put widgets on top of each other. So it's expecting children. This is the first child, this text, and this is the second child. You can see. So now we have supplied 2 widgets to be the children of the column, right? Now we are done with the center. You can see this is where the center stops. It's giving us hint here. This is where the center widget stops. And now we are outside, we are in the scaffold. Now, the scaffold expects an bar, expects a body. And now we can supply this floating action button. This is one of the property of a scaffold, supply a floating action button. And it expects a widget. You can just give it any widget. But then we have another widget called floating action button. So this is it here. This button you are seeing here that are hitting is what we call floating action button. We can build our own floating action button from scratch, but it's already given to us for free by Flutter. So floating action button takes in an unpressed. This is a callback. This is like a function that gets called when you hit the button. So what should the button do when you click on the button? We'll get to that in a moment. Hold on. Then we have this property again called tooltip. Let me show you what this tooltip does. If I hover around this increment button, you can see this small info that is saying increment. So that's the string we give to the tooltip. Tooltip expects a string. It's just when we hover around the button, it's going to give us a tip of what the button does. It increments, right? Now, the floating action button to expects a child. If we get rid of this child because it's nullable, if we get rid of this child, you see, there's nothing there. The add icon is no more there. So in the child, we supplied an icon. So an icon is also a widget too that expects an icon data, right? Now, we are using the icons from the material.dat. So you get when we imported material.dat, we also in the prospect.yaml, we added the material icon. So you have several icons. If you want, you can Google for icons, material icons. You need to add an icon in your application. So now we are using icons.add. Let me think of another one. Icons. You have several. I can see. I see chair. You can see that's the chair icon here. Let's go back to that add. So now let's go back to this compress. I said the compressed property expects a function. You can see it expects this function. So this is a function that will get called when you press the button. So now we are saying when you press the button, you should call this increment counter function. Remember, this is the increment counter function. This is the implementation. So it's in here that we're incrementing the counter and we're calling set state. Remember, if you don't call set state, the counter is going to get incremented, but it's not going to reflect on the UI. So now I want us to do something. I want to include another icon. I'm sorry, another button. That whenever you press it, it's going to decrement this number. We can do that here in the child property of that floating action button. Instead of using an icon here, let's just Control X to cut it. Let's apply a row. You can use a column, or let's just apply a row. Type row, type children. Now in the children, you can Control V to hold on. I don't want to use this anymore. Let's just cut this floating action button. Copy and cut it. Control X. Now row. This is where I want the row. Now one of the children should now be one of those floating action buttons. The floating action button will be cut. Now we can copy it and paste it again. So we have two floating action buttons. So you can see they are the two of them. They do the same thing. If I click on the two of them, do the same because I just copied and pasted the two. So they are starting from here, right? They are starting from this right side. You can change the main axis alignment. Let's say main axis alignment dot end. Because remember, from left to right is the main axis of a row. Remember when I showed you. Left to right is the main axis of a row. So now I'm saying the main axis, and by default, the main axis alignment of a row is start. So I changed it from start to main axis alignment dot end. So that's why it's starting here. So now I'm supplying the children. The first child should be floating action button. Also the same thing for the second child. But now I want to change it. I want to say second child, the tooltip should be decrement. So now if I hover around, let me see. If I hover around this one should be decrement, this one should be increment. You can see increment, decrement. Now we are not done. Now I'm looking for an icon, like a minus icon. I can't remember what the icon is, so let's just search. Let's search on Google. Let's see. Material icons. Material design icons. I hope you can see my screen. I don't think this is the one. That's this one. Hello. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. I was scared. I thought I was just talking to myself since. Let me search for minus. Okay, it is remove. It's called remove. But let's go back to our application. It's icons dot remove. So now if I save, you can see you have the addition, you have the subtraction. Now, when you press this second button, this decrement button, we want it to decrement instead of increment. So now let's create a new function. So have the same signature like this one, almost the same. So let's call it decrement, right? Now, instead of plus plus, let's change it to minus minus. So it will decrement by 1. Now, here in the unpressed, let's reference that decrement. Let's call it. Whenever you press the decrement button, it's going to decrement by 1. We're going to do the opposite of the initial one. So now if we click on this one, 24, right? If we click on this one, it should decrement. You can see. And it can go as far as -2, -1, -2. Like decrement, we can increment and decrement. So I think this should be the end of today's session. Just a basic intro to Flutter. And Celine, I really hope you watch the video on OOP so you'll be able to get all these things about classes and all that we touched on the last class. So if you have any question, you can ask.
No question, no question. I'll watch the video on OP.
Mr. Olalekan.
I've not been feeling too, that's why.
All right. Mr. Olalekan, how about you? Any question?
Yeah, no question, sir.
Yeah. So it's just a basic intro to Flutter. In the next class, we start learning Flutter by building one of our projects that we're going to build. The quiz app that I sent on the Slack channel the other time. That quiz app will start building it. So thank you for joining today's session.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right.
You too.